Listen to me carefully. Sometimes the greatest blessing is hidden in the very thing you fear to do again. Starting over does not mean you failed. It means life has given you another chance to build it stronger, wiser, and better. Don't you ever confuse a setback with the end of your story. Your delay is not your denial, and your rejection is only redirection. You are being prepared for greater glory. Starting over is not losing, it's repositioning. You see, the problem with most people is that they believe when they have to start again, it means they failed. But let me tell you something powerful: failure is never final unless you decide to quit. When a seed is placed in the soil, it looks as if it has been buried, covered up, forgotten. To the naked eye, it appears that the seed has been lost forever. But in reality, the seed has only been repositioned. It has been placed in the right environment, in the right soil, at the right depth, where its potential can finally be activated. That's what happens when life pushes you to start again. You didn't lose everything. You were simply moved into a new environment where your potential can emerge. Think about it. Some of the greatest success stories we know came from people who had to start again after losing everything. Businesses collapsed. Marriages broke apart. Careers ended. Friendships betrayed. But instead of staying down, they got up, repositioned, and rebuilt stronger than before. You may have lost a job, but maybe that was life's way of removing you from a place where you were underpaid, undervalued, and overlooked. You thought you were buried under disappointment, but you were being planted into a new season where your gifts would finally make room for you. You may have walked away from a relationship that broke your heart, but maybe that was not rejection. It was realignment. Because sometimes you cannot step into the relationship that will honor you until you leave the one that was wasting you. Don't ever confuse being buried with being planted. A buried seed is dead, but a planted seed is alive. And when you start again, it means you are still alive. It means there is still breath in your body, still vision in your mind, still passion in your spirit. The fact that you're starting again means you're not finished. It means you're repositioning. Let's get practical. Think about moving houses. Sometimes you have to pack everything up, leave a familiar space, and start all over again in a new place. At first, it feels uncomfortable, chaotic, like everything is out of order. But give it a little time. When the furniture is placed in the right spots, when the pictures are hung, when the rooms begin to feel like home, you realize the move was not a loss. It was an upgrade. You reposition to live in something bigger, something better, something designed for your next season. That is what life does when it forces you to start again. It is moving you out of a season that no longer serves you into one that prepares you for greater glory. And yes, the process is uncomfortable. Starting over always is. It means swallowing pride, admitting mistakes, facing fears, and sometimes even walking away from what felt safe. But comfort is the enemy of growth. If the seed insisted on staying on the shelf, it would never become a tree. If you insist on staying in the old, you'll never embrace the new. Starting again doesn't mean you are weak. It means you are brave enough to trust that there is more ahead of you than behind you. Every time you get back up, you are proving that your destiny is bigger than your disaster. And here's the truth. Repositioning gives you perspective. The second time you try, you don't start from zero. You start from wisdom. You don't repeat the same mistakes because you've already learned from them. I want you to imagine this. A person who lost everything in a business venture. They felt like a failure. But when they started again, they started with better financial habits, smarter strategies, and stronger discipline. That's not losing. That's repositioning. Or picture someone who got out of a toxic relationship. They may feel broken for a while, but when they start again, they walk in with clearer boundaries, stronger self-worth, and deeper wisdom. That's not losing, that's repositioning. Life is not about how many times you fall. It's about how many times you get back up. The power is in your decision to rise again. And when you rise, you don't just stand where you fell. You rise higher, stronger, and more focused. Every restart carries the lessons of the past and the promise of the future. So the next time life pushes you to start again, don't say, "Why me?" Say, "Thank you for repositioning me." Because what looks like a setback is often a setup for something bigger. What feels like loss is often life clearing the space for something greater. Starting again is not losing, it's repositioning. It is the soil of transformation where the seed of your future is waiting to grow. Your past was preparation, not punishment. Too often, when we go through hard seasons in life, our first reaction is to ask, "Why me? What did I do to deserve this?" But the truth is, not everything you went through was meant to break you. Most of it was meant to shape you. Life is a way of turning your disappointments into classrooms, your heartbreaks into lessons, and your failures into blueprints for a stronger future. When you look back on the chapters of your life, you will realize that every single event, even the painful ones, was training you for the next level you didn't even know was coming. Think about a soldier in training. He is made to run, crawl, lift heavy weights, and endure pressure beyond his comfort zone. To the untrained eye, it looks like suffering. To the soldier, it feels like punishment. But in reality, it is preparation. Without that training, he will never survive the battlefield. That is how your life works. Those long nights of crying, those days you thought you would never get through, those times when the doors slammed in your face, they were not punishments. They were preparation drills. They were equipping you with resilience, sharpening your discernment, and fortifying your faith so you could stand strong when your greater glory finally arrives. Remember the heartbreak that almost broke you. At that time, it felt like the end of your world. You thought you were being punished with loneliness. But what if that heartbreak was preparation for you to discover your worth? What if that rejection was preparation for you to recognize real love when it finally shows up? What if you had to walk through the valley of loneliness so that when the right person comes into your life, you will have the wisdom to protect it and the strength to appreciate it? That wasn't punishment, that was preparation. Think about your job loss, that moment when the paycheck stopped coming and you felt stripped of security. You may have cried, you may have worried, you may have even doubted yourself. But what if that season was the very thing that prepared you to start your own business? What if that door had to close so you could walk through the door of independence? Maybe the frustration of being laid off was meant to stir up the hidden gifts inside you that a comfortable job would never have awakened. Preparation, not punishment. And let's talk about failure. People treat failure like a curse, but failure is one of the best teachers you will ever have. When you failed, you discovered what doesn't work. You discovered the holes in your plan, the blind spots in your character, the weaknesses in your strategy. Failure doesn't come to punish, it comes to instruct. And when you start again, you don't start from zero, you start from experience. That failed relationship taught you boundaries. That failed business taught you perseverance. That failed idea taught you innovation. Every failure was adding something to your toolbox for the future. You see, life is a master teacher. The curriculum is not always comfortable, but it is always purposeful. Every tear you cried watered the soil of your strength. Every no you received taught you to wait for the right yes. Every person who walked away trained you to stand without depending on them. And every disappointment stretched your capacity to handle the appointment waiting for you in the future. Take a moment to look at the people who inspire you most. They didn't arrive at greatness on a smooth road. They had losses, betrayals, setbacks, delays. But instead of interpreting those seasons as punishment, they realized it was preparation. Preparation gives you wisdom. Preparation gives you endurance. Preparation makes sure that when the blessing arrives, you won't sabotage it with immaturity or fear. Imagine a builder laying the foundation of a skyscraper. To the onlooker, it looks like he's just digging holes, pouring concrete, wasting time underground. But the truth is, the taller the building, the deeper the foundation must go. Without that underground preparation, the building would collapse under its own weight. Your life works the same way. The deeper your trials, the taller your future. The pain you endured wasn't punishment. It was the foundation being laid for your elevation. And here's the most powerful part. You would not be who you are today without what you went through yesterday. That heartbreak gave you compassion. That betrayal gave you discernment. That failure gave you creativity. That loss gave you gratitude. Everything you thought was meant to destroy, you was actually forming the version of you that is ready for what's coming next. So the next time you are tempted to look at your past and call it wasted, look again. That wasn't wasted time. It was invested time. Those weren't wasted tears. They were seeds of wisdom. That wasn't punishment. It was training for the greater glory you are about to step into. Fear is the enemy of your next level. Fear has a voice, and it speaks louder than faith when you allow it. Fear whispers in your mind, "Don't try again. Remember the last time you failed. Remember how people laughed. Remember how much it hurt." Fear magnifies your past mistakes and projects them into your future, convincing you that what happened before will happen again. But let me tell you something, fear is a liar. Fear is a prison guard keeping you locked away from the opportunities waiting for you on the other side of courage. Every time you hesitate, every time you shrink back, every time you play small, it's not because you don't have potential. It's because fear is holding you hostage. And the tragedy is that fear doesn't stop you from dreaming. It just stops you from moving. It traps you in a cycle of what if? What if I fail? What if I lose? What if people reject me? But here's the truth. What if you win? What if you succeed? What if people celebrate you? What if the very thing you're afraid of doing is the key to unlocking the life you've been praying for? Look at your own life for a moment. How many times have you looked back and thought, if only I had taken that chance? Fear makes you live in regret, not because you tried and failed, but because you never tried at all. You can recover from failure. You can rebuild after rejection. You can get back up after a fall. But you cannot recover the time wasted when fear kept you standing still. Fear steals moments, and those moments turn into years. And those years turn into an unlived life. Think of a child learning to walk. They stumble, they fall, they hit the floor again and again. But notice this, the child is not afraid of falling because their focus is on walking. If that child listened to fear, they would never take another step after the first fall. But because they keep trying, they eventually walk, and then they run. Imagine if adults lived with that same boldness. Imagine if we saw falling not as failing, but as part of the process of learning. Fear is not just about what you feel, it's about what you surrender to. You cannot stop fear from knocking on your door, but you can decide whether to let it in. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is action in spite of fear. Courage says, I'm shaking, but I'm stepping. Courage says, I'm unsure, but I'm moving. Courage says, fear, you can talk, but you can't control me. And that is where breakthroughs are born. Look around in history, in business, in everyday life. Every person who achieved something extraordinary had to confront fear. The inventor who created something the world had never seen before felt fear. The speaker who stood before thousands with trembling hands felt fear. The business owner who invested everything into their idea felt fear. The parent raising children in a world of uncertainty feels fear. But they did it anyway, and that's the difference. Greatness doesn't belong to the fearless. It belongs to those who refuse to let fear dictate their decisions. Think about this: a bird is designed to fly, but if it never leaves the nest, it will never discover the strength of its wings. Fear tells you the nest is safer, but destiny whispers that the sky belongs to you. You can choose safety, but safety will keep you ordinary. You can choose risk, and risk will carry you into your next level. Fear is sneaky. It doesn't always shout. Sometimes it disguises itself as procrastination. You keep delaying the dream, saying, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll start next year. I'll wait until the time is right. But deep down, it's not lack of time, it's fear of failure. Sometimes fear shows up as perfectionism. You tell yourself, it's not ready yet, I'm not ready yet. I need to fix just one more thing. But what you're really saying is, I'm afraid it won't be good enough. And sometimes fear shows up as excuses. I don't have the money. I don't have the connections. I don't have the education. But the truth is, you don't have the courage to begin. Fear is the enemy of your next level, because your next level always demands faith. It demands that you step into the unknown, trust what you cannot see, and believe in what you have not yet touched. And if you wait until fear leaves, you will wait your whole life, because fear never fully leaves. It only loses power when you act. The first step weakens fear. The second step silences it. And by the third step, you've left it behind. So when fear says, what if you fail? Your response must be, what if I fly? When fear says, people will laugh, your response must be, but what if they're inspired? When fear says, you'll lose everything, your response must be, but what if I gain everything I was created for? Fear is a question, but courage is an answer. Fear will paralyze you, but courage will propel you. And the truth is, everything you desire, the business, the relationship, the opportunity, the breakthrough, it's all waiting for you on the other side of fear. Greater glory demands greater capacity. You cannot step into a bigger future with the same mindset, the same habits, the same level of discipline that kept you in the old season. A small cup cannot hold an ocean, and a small life cannot carry the weight of greater glory. That's why sometimes life stretches you, pushes you, and even breaks you, because capacity has to be enlarged before glory can be received. What you thought was delay was really development. What you thought was God ignoring you was actually God preparing you. Greater glory will crush you if your shoulders aren't wide enough to carry it. Think about it like this. If you hand a child the keys to a car, you are not blessing them. You are endangering them. The car is a good thing, but the child doesn't yet have the capacity to handle it. Sometimes your blessing is ready, but you are not. And so life puts you through training. Life puts you through weight lifting seasons where you carry burdens that seem unnecessary. But each burden is expanding your capacity. Every trial adds muscle to your character. Every disappointment toughens your skin. Every challenge strengthens your resolve. The weight you're carrying is not there to break you. It's there to build you, because the weight of glory is heavier than the weight of struggle. Think about an athlete preparing for the Olympics. She doesn't train with light weights if she wants to compete with the best in the world. She pushes herself to lift more, run farther, endure longer because she knows her competition will demand her highest capacity. The pain in the gym is building the strength for the victory at the games. That's your life. The reason the pressure has been so intense, the reason the storms have lasted so long, is because what's coming to you requires an Olympic-level version of yourself. Greater glory does not show up in weak hands. It shows up in hands that have been strengthened by resistance. Look at your own story. There were seasons when you asked, "Why am I going through this? Why is everything so hard? Why do I have to endure so much pressure?" You thought it was punishment, but it was preparation. Because when the opportunity comes, when the door opens, when the platform arrives, you will realize you are now big enough to stand on it. Without the stretching, without the waiting, without the struggle, you would have collapsed under the weight of the very thing you prayed for. Capacity is not built in comfort, it is built in challenge. Consider the example of pouring water into a balloon. The more water you pour, the more the balloon stretches. If the balloon doesn't stretch, it bursts. That's why your life has been stretching you. It's making sure you don't burst when the fullness of glory arrives. You've been stretched emotionally, stretched financially, stretched spiritually, stretched mentally, and every stretch feels uncomfortable, but it is necessary. Stretching is proof that expansion is coming. Greater glory requires you to think bigger. If you are still thinking at the level of survival, you cannot handle the level of abundance. If you are still thinking like an employee, you cannot handle the mindset of an entrepreneur. If you are still thinking like a follower, you cannot handle the responsibility of a leader. Glory comes with weight, and weight demands capacity. Your character has to match your calling. Your discipline has to match your destiny. Your wisdom has to match your wealth. Otherwise, what was meant to bless you will crush you. Daily life shows us this truth all the time. A person who wins the lottery but has no financial discipline ends up broke again. Why? Because their capacity for handling money never grew. On the other hand, someone who built a business from scratch learns to budget, to invest, to sacrifice, and when money comes, they can multiply it. Glory demands capacity. You've been asking for the prize, but the process is teaching you how to hold it. It's the same in relationships. If you want a great marriage, you can't bring small capacity into it. You need the patience, the communication, the forgiveness, the selflessness that can sustain it. The trials you've been through in past relationships weren't wasted. They were stretching your capacity to love deeper, to understand better, to endure stronger. Greater love demands greater capacity. Look at nature. A tree cannot grow tall until its roots grow deep. The deeper the roots, the taller the tree. Without deep roots, the tree will collapse in the storm. Life has been deepening your roots so that when you rise into greater glory, you won't be shaken by every storm that comes. This is why you can't despise the season of stretching. You can't curse the pressure, because pressure is proof that something greater is on its way. Diamonds are created under pressure. Gold is refined in fire. Muscles are built under strain. Glory does not rest on the fragile, it rests on the strong. And strength is not given, it is developed. Every time you were stretched, every time you endured, every time you pressed forward when you wanted to give up, you are secretly being enlarged for the glory that is waiting for you. Starting small again is proof you still believe. There is something powerful about a person who, after losing everything, has the courage to begin again with just a seed in their hand. It is not weakness to start over. It is the highest form of faith. When you start small, you are declaring to yourself, to the world, and to life itself that you believe your future is bigger than your present situation. You are saying, I may not have much right now, but I still believe something great can be built from what I have left. Look at the farmer. He does not walk into the field with a forest in his hand. He walks in with a few seeds. To the untrained eye, those seeds look insignificant, even laughable. But the farmer knows that one seed carries the potential of 1,000 harvests. Starting small is not failure. It is the birthplace of abundance. The only reason many never see greatness is because they despise the small beginnings. They want the skyscraper without laying the first brick, the harvest without planting the seed, the success without enduring the struggle. But those who believe are not ashamed to start small because they know small beginnings are proof that greatness is coming. Think of a child learning to read. They don't start with complicated books. They start with one letter, then two, then short words, then simple sentences. Slowly, through repetition and belief, they begin to read fluently. If they gave up at the alphabet, they would never reach literature. In the same way, your small steps today are building the capacity for your future success. You may not see the results yet, but every small effort is proof you still believe. There are people who lost their jobs and had to start with a side hustle, selling something from their kitchen or using skills they thought were too simple to matter. At first, it looked small, unimportant, even humiliating. But because they kept believing and working, those small beginnings turned into thriving businesses. The story is the same with some of the greatest companies in the world today. They started in basements, garages, and small offices that nobody cared about. But belief turned those small spaces into global empires. What made the difference? They refused to despise small beginnings. Starting small again is humbling. It tests your pride. It makes you wonder what people will think. You may hear the whispers. Is that all you're doing now? After everything you once had? But the truth is, people who laugh at your small start often forget that the biggest trees begin as tiny seeds. Let them laugh. Let them mock. Because the same people who mocked the seed will one day sit in the shade of the tree it produces. Daily life shows us this lesson in so many ways. When you go to the gym after being away for a long time, you can't lift the heaviest weights on your first day. You start with the small ones. And it might feel embarrassing to be next to someone lifting more. But the fact that you picked up that small weight is proof that you believe your strength can return. That belief, combined with consistency, will eventually lead you back to lifting heavier and running farther. Starting small doesn't mean staying small. It means you are on your way back to greater. Even in relationships, starting small again is proof you believe in love. After betrayal or heartbreak, it takes courage to open your heart again, even if it's just to trust someone with a simple conversation. That small act of opening up is faith in action. You are declaring that your heart still has the capacity to give and to receive. And though it feels fragile, it is the first step toward building something stronger than before. Starting small is not about the size of what you have, but the size of what you believe. You may have only one idea, one connection, one opportunity. That's enough, because one idea can open the door to 1,000 possibilities. One connection can introduce you to the network you've been waiting for. One opportunity can change the trajectory of your entire life. Starting again with that one small thing is the proof that you still believe your story is not over. And here is the most inspiring truth. The moment you start again, even in the smallest way, heaven takes notice. Life bends in the direction of movement. Opportunities do not chase those who sit still. They chase those who act, even with little. That's why the universe rewards those who have the humility and faith to start from scratch. The small step may not look like much, but it signals belief, and belief is the seed of greatness. So if all you have left is a seed, plant it. If all you can take today is one small step, take it. If all you can give is a little effort, give it. Because starting small again is not weakness. It is evidence that deep inside, you still believe that greater glory is ahead. And that belief is more powerful than anything standing in your way. Every great story has a turning point. And for many of you listening right now, this is your turning point. You've been through storms. You've faced disappointments. You've been knocked down more times than you can count. But here's the truth: you are still here. And the fact that you are still breathing, still standing, still listening, is proof that your story is not finished. Your scars are not signs of defeat. They are evidence that you survived what was sent to destroy you. And if you survived that, then there is nothing ahead of you that you cannot overcome. You have to stop letting the shadows of yesterday darken the light of your tomorrow. What you lost was not the end of your destiny. It was only the end of a chapter. Greater is still coming. You may have to start small again. You may have to humble yourself and take one step at a time. But remember this: empires are built one brick at a time. The tallest skyscrapers start with the smallest foundations. The greatest victories rise from the most painful battles. And the most inspiring stories are written by people who refuse to give up when quitting would have been easier. Don't you dare let fear be louder than your faith. Fear has a way of painting pictures of failure in your mind, but faith has a way of whispering that the best is yet to come. You cannot allow the echo of doubt to drown out the voice of destiny. When fear says, "You can't do it," you rise up and answer, "Watch me." When doubt says, "You'll fail again," you answer, "Even if I fall, I'll rise stronger." When life says it's over, you stand tall and declare, "I am just getting started." The difference between those who live an ordinary life and those who step into greatness is not that they never fail. It's that they refuse to let failure have the final word. Every time you rise, you are building proof that glory belongs to the persistent, the courageous, the relentless. Winners are not born. Winners are shaped in the fire of rejection, sharpened by the knife of betrayal, and strengthened by the weight of struggle. That's why when they rise unshakable. You may feel tired. You may feel like you've given everything and have nothing left to show. But let me remind you, pressure creates diamonds. Fire refines gold. Struggles make champions. The world doesn't remember those who gave up. The world remembers those who stood up one more time, those who believed when everything around them said it was impossible, those who lit their own fire when everyone else walked away. So rise again, start again, believe again. This time, don't carry the weight of yesterday's pain. Carry the wisdom it gave you. Don't drag along the shame of failure. Walk boldly with the strength it built inside you. Don't waste time explaining to people who doubt you. Let your results be the answer they cannot argue with. You were not born to live small, to settle, to shrink. You were born for greatness. Inside you, there is a reservoir of power that has not yet been touched, a level of strength you have not yet accessed, a version of yourself you have not yet met. And that version is waiting for you on the other side of this decision, the decision to start again, to believe again, to fight again. Remember this: a comeback is always stronger than a setback. The comeback story is always the one that inspires nations, lifts hearts, and shakes generations. You are writing your comeback right now. Every step you take forward is rewriting the narrative. And every act of courage is announcing to the world that you are unstoppable. So let the world doubt you. Let people walk away. Let the storms rage. You were not built to break. You were built to rise. And no matter how many times you've been knocked down, you carry within you the unshakable truth that your destiny is greater than your difficulty. The best days of your life are not behind you. They are still unfolding ahead of you. This is your season. This is your moment. Don't be afraid to start again, because starting again is not going backwards. It's stepping into greater glory. And when you rise into that glory, the same world that watched you struggle will have no choice but to witness your triumph.